It's showtime, everybody. I'm Rob Wu, and this is Pancrase, Legends of Mixed Martial Arts. And sitting alongside me, he needs no introduction, Josh Barnett.
Great to be here as always, and I just cannot wait to get looking forward to these next fights and see what other gems from the past we can dig up and show the audience.
Well, today we've managed to dig up our first fight, Osami Shibuya against Harut Terzian. Terzian making his MMA debut. What do we know about this guy?
Well, actually, I know quite a bit about Terzian. You know, it's an Armenian last name, so you're gonna have to forgive me if my pronunciation isn't so great. But Harut is a student of Gokor and Jean Lebel out of North Hollywood, California. An excellent grappler, a strong background in judo, but really fond of the leg locks, and a good-sized opponent for someone like Shibuya, although I believe they're actually fairly close in weight. But I think it could be a really interesting leg lock battle between the two of these guys. Both of them very, very well versed on the ground, and Harut still competing, although not a very active competitor.
And Osami hasn't had a great start to his career yet, just one win. He might be salivating at a chance to take on a guy who's fighting for the first time in Pancrase.
True. But Harut, I think, is going to be deceptive, and this is going to be a tough match for Shibuya to pull out.
All right, will Shibuya win his second fight, or will Harut win his Pancrase debut?
Harut Terzian versus Osami Shibuya.
Fight! Well, I think that he's got to be very hungry for a win. And I think that when it comes to striking, he's gonna have the real advantage in this match. But as I said before, Harut's a very strong grappler, and you know, Shibuya, he's part of the Pancrase dojo, and seeing guys like Funaki and Suzuki, his trainers, going out there and being some of the best in the world, Nice toe hold by Shibuya.
And Shibuya introduces Terzian to Pancrase action. I'm not sure if Terzian expected that, but he's got to be a little more prepared. If he keeps that up, he's going to lose this fight in a couple of minutes.
Well, but as I was saying, with seeing all his peers and his coaches winning and having success, it's got to light a fire to Shibuya, because he wants to not only impress and earn their respect, but he wants to have the feeling of winning in the ring too. And tonight he looks very aggressive against Harut. Here he is working again for the toe hold, reaching back like that. Harut grabbing Shibuya's foot at the same time, keeping him from being able to set back on that leg, catching his neck, and continue to work off his back, while Shibuya here patiently looking for an opening.
And also doing a great job keeping Terzian in the center of the ring. I don't think he has even moved anywhere near the ropes.
No, he is doing a great job of keeping the match in the center of the ring in case he does happen to get an opportunity to go for submission. Of course, that can also work against you, as if Harut was able to lock in a submission against Shibuya, then he wouldn't be able to get to the ropes very easily either. As Shibuya sits back again for the toe hold, he really seems to want that toe hold, where Terzian is going for what I call a sambo leg lock or a knee slicer.
I'm not sure exactly how much damage Terzian is doing to Shibuya. Shibuya is looking very busy.
Nice steering wheel, we call that. Modification of a toe hold, going to the figure 4 toe hold.
And if that's a steering wheel, I think Shibuya is trying to make like 3 left turns in a row.
Well, I think that if it's a game of rock, paper, scissors, toe hold wins over sambo leg lock there.
And the referee breaks it. And that's because Terzian taps out. This fight is over. Shibuya picks up his second career victory against Harut Terzian now. All right, let's move on to our next match. Vernon Tiger White against Katsumi Inagaki. Now, Josh, Vernon White's had 17 bouts under his belt. I think he's growing and improving as a fighter.
You certainly can't help but grow after 17 bouts with some of the best in the world, training with some of the best at the Lion's Den, and getting experience at being in the ring and having access to the Pancrase dojo as well. Vernon White is a very wily competitor, and like I said, he had acquired the nickname the Worm of being so difficult to really catch in a good submission. But let's see how he fares against a tough veteran like Inagaki, and let's see what kind of improvements he's made up to this point.
Worm, Tiger, doesn't exactly go together, Jeff.
No, it doesn't. But certainly when you're trying to get a hold of somebody and all you get is just this motion underneath you, and you can't quite get a hold of somebody, a worm is pretty fitting.
All right, has he improved enough to defeat Inagaki? Let's find out.
Katsumi Inagaki versus Vernon Tiger White.
Vernon's White's record 5-12 as he starts off with a spinning leg kick. His 5-12 record not too impressive, but he has fought Inagaki twice and he's won both meetings. Seems like he has his number, Josh.
That's an interesting stat, in fact. And as you see, Vernon looks like he's put on some size since we last saw him on the show. And let's see if that added strength and experience is going to help pay off again with a third win, 3-0 over Inagaki.
And a nice left palm strike by White, trying to keep Inagaki back. Obviously, Inagaki wants to come in for a takedown at some point.
Yeah, Vernon, he wants to keep the distance. He wants to try to catch his opponent off guard.
And it looks like Inagaki has the takedown, and now he has Vernon White mounted.
Side control by Inagaki now, transitioning, forearm on the throat, applying pressure to the neck. Perhaps looking for the top wrist lock.
Vernon White still on the bottom. Inagaki still on top with the side control once again. Now working on the head of Vernon Tiger White.
A headlock position there on Inagaki, transitioning to a north-south and back to side. Double wrist lock attempt by Inagaki. Now transitioning to an armbar, a very classic judo entry, but Vernon sees it. And
a nice reverse by Vernon White. I don't think he could have done this in his first couple of fights.
No, night and day for Vernon at this point. Look at him rolling the ankles, look for the toe hold earlier, still staying on the legs, still going for that toe hold. Really well played by Vernon, and also well played by Inagaki to see the technique coming and defend it.
Both fighters with a hold of each other's ankles now as they were nearing the ropes, but now more in the center of the ring. And once again, side control for Inagaki. As we skip ahead in the fight, Inagaki again in the side control in the center of the ring, and Vernon White trying to wiggle out of it.
Yeah, Vernon is playing defense off of his back, and he's been good about not allowing Inagaki to get a good solid hold on him, but at the same time, he's using this energy on the ground defending and also taking Inagaki's weight on top of him and wearing him down.
Do you think White has enough stamina to last this entire fight?
I do. I think he's got the ability to weather this sort of fight, but if he ends up on bottom the entire time, it's going to be difficult for him to pull out the win.
And Inagaki, looked like he was going for the arm, but now White is on top.
Yeah, I think Inagaki got a little carried away too soon and jumped on his back without really doing it very securely and just happened to slip off underneath him, and this could be a mistake that cost him.
And now both fighters exchanging palm strikes. This is where White wants to fight, on his feet.
I think so, and if he can line in one of those straight kicks, front kicks, or maybe a high roundhouse kick to the head, maybe he can get the down and pull ahead in this match.
Inagaki has a leg of White, perhaps looking for the single leg takedown, and he does get it. And once again, White on the bottom does have Inagaki in the full guard.
Inagaki looking to attack the head, match pass all the way through to a head and arm position.
Now, when you use the term pass, what exactly does pass mean?
Pass, basically get past his legs. And pass meaning, they call it passing the guard, when you get past his feet, his knees, his legs, and getting into a position where he's no longer able to wrap you up with his legs and try to keep you under control with his legs that way.
And as this fight is over, we are awaiting the judge's decision because this bout has gone to the limit. And before the judges give us their decision, give me your decision, Josh.
And Inagaki barely manages to squeak out the win here, as most of the judges considered this a draw. I don't know if it's so much of really a victory for Inagaki over Vernon White in that, he has brought one win against the two defeats to Vernon, but not a very dominating performance on Inagaki's part. And at least one thing that can be said for certain is that Vernon is making leaps and bounds as a fighter. And
Inagaki managed to squeak by. Vernon White might not have won this, but he is improving himself each fight.
I agree.
All right, our next fight, Ryushi and Nagasawa against a guy who admires Josh Barnett. His name's Guy Mesger, right after the break. Welcome back to Pancrase, Legends of Mixed Martial Arts, seen only here on Imagination TV. We're getting ready to see our next fight, Ryushi and Nagasawa versus Guy Mesger. Now, Josh, we saw Guy Mesger a week or two ago, a loss to Funaki, looking to rebound from that.
Yeah, Funaki is, as one of the aces of the company, no real shame in losing to a guy like that. But Nagisawa is no slouch himself. Nagisawa is going to have the reach advantage. He's also going to have the size advantage. And he comes from a karate background, similar to Guy with his kickboxing and karate background. We'll see how that meshes up, and maybe the real defining moment will be who can make the most advantage of the groundwork.
And let's see if the size advantage pays off for Nagasawa.
Guy Mesger versus Ryushi Nagasawa.
As we see both fighters shaking hands now, Guy Mesger, a world-class kickboxer, so you might want to use those kicks early in the fight.
And Nagisawa would eventually go on to even compete in K1 after training lengthily with Team Dragon, a very successful and kickboxing team within Japan. So that should give you an idea how good Nagisawa is on his feet as he eats a high left snap kick.
And both fighters keeping the fight on their feet, at least for right now. And Mesger now perhaps looking for the takedown.
Right, nice arm drag to tight waist and a tight waist takedown by Mesger, and getting the back control position. That front lead leg high kick is actually a staple of Mesger's and one of his signature moves. He's scored a lot of success with that.
Now, Nagasawa is down on the mat, but not necessarily a bad thing, because Guy Mesger, he's got some of the best knees in the business, but he can't use that when he's on the mat.
Back again on the feet here is Nagisawa and Mesger. Nagisawa opening up with some palm strikes and ending with a middle kick. Mesger leading off with a left-right kick.
I'll tell you what, Nagasawa's, so far he looks content to trade kicks. I'm not sure that's the best thing to do with Guy Mesger.
Well, Guy's certainly going to have the more speed and able to throw the more tricky, sort of unorthodox kicks, but Nagisawa, I'd expect, would have the power advantage, and being a southpaw, maybe a little more of a difficulty for Guy Mesger to adapt.
And Mesger showing he's got some palm strikes too.
Got to keep those hands high, though. His hands are starting to fade low, and that could cost him if Nagasawa comes in hard with the palm strikes or another high head kick.
Now, if you're Nagasawa, I'm curious, don't you want to take this fight to the ground?
I think at some point it would be smart for Nagisawa to initiate a takedown and get on top of Mesger, at least for some amount of time. Nice kick by Nagisawa with a return by Mesger and with a back spin kick.
I think Nagasawa got the memo, a couple knees, and now he's going for the takedown.
Certainly, Mesger going for the rolling knee bar, but blocked by Nagisawa. Nagisawa now taking advantage of that top position we talked about earlier, and trying to work the neck of Mesger and put his weight on him.
As we move ahead in the fight, looks like Metzger is going for an arm bar, and Nagasawa slipped out. How did he slip out, Josh?
Wasn't able to really secure it as well as he should have, and Nagasawa, being the seasoned veteran, was able to see it coming and already make preparations to escape.
Now Metzger trying to apply a chokehold on Nagasawa. Nagasawa, as we've seen before in the past, prone to that chokehold.
Nice front choke attempt by Metzger. Nagasawa has his hands inside to defend against it, but Metzger applying pressure, turning it into a neck crank.
What should Nagasawa do at this point? And he just ate a knee to the body.
Well, he was defending and trying to break the grip, but now he's in a bad spot in the tie clinch, eating knees to the body, and returning in kind with some body punches of his own.
I'm not sure if trading knees is Nagasawa's best play, though.
Right, knees for punches is not really a game you're likely to win. That's almost like knife to a gunfight. But so far, Nagasawa is still in the fight, visibly exhausted, as is Metzger, as they continue on with their striking battle on the feet.
And as far as conditioning goes, which fighter do you give the advantage to?
I think both of them are in excellent physical shape, but it looks to me as Nagasawa is a little more spent of the two of them, and that might have been from spending more time on bottom against Metzger.
Once again, this fight on the ground. Metzger with a front choke. But Nagasawa is near the ropes, so should he have to grab it, he probably will do so.
Metzger working the neck, front headlock position, controlling, maybe looking for the choke or the neck lock again. Again, cinching tight on that front neck. Looks like maybe a front face lock, and time expires.
And it looks like Ryushi Nagasawa saved by the bell. And our next fight is going to feature Yoshiki Takahashi against Scott Bisac. Now, Scott Bisac lost his first 4 fights, but since then has won his last 4. So this isn't the same Scott Bisac we saw weeks ago.
Right. Scott Bisac is going to be giving away experience to a guy like Takahashi, but coming in on a 4-fight winning streak has to do a lot for his confidence, and maybe he can take some of that momentum and roll it into a fight where he's giving up experience and probably looked at as the underdog against someone like Takahashi, regardless of being the bigger man. And I like to call Takahashi Mr. Boku Boku, which in Japanese means hot-headed. He really lives up to that expectation, too.
Josh Barnett, a linguist, ladies and gentlemen.
Cunning linguist.
All right, and cunningly good-looking linguist. All right, let's go to Scott Bisac versus Yoshiki Takahashi.
Scott Bisac versus Yoshiki Takahashi.
Now, as you take a look at the fighters, Scott Bisac has a tremendous physical advantage, 6'4" to Takahashi's 5'11", and Bisac weighs about 245.
I think Takahashi, though, is going to be able to neutralize this with a strong double leg takedown and his very fast and aggressive palm strikes.
Bisac, nice, aggressive right palm strike. He is going on the offensive, knocks Takahashi down to the mat.
Yeah, Bisac just really going off on Takahashi here. I don't know what's gotten into him, but it's like he's a different man from the fights that we saw earlier.
And we just saw Scott Bisac deliver palm strikes to Takahashi while Takahashi was on the ground. I guess he heard that, hey, if his opponent does it, he might as well start it first.
I think this fight is going to be one that's going to get a little wild, if anything.
Both fighters on the ground, perhaps trying to catch their breath after the furious start to this fight.
Bisac looking for that double wrist lock there on top.
And Takahashi shooting a couple right leg kicks. Bisac returning that left leg kick.
You got to wonder how long Bisac's going to be able to keep this pace up, being the bigger man.
A much bigger man, weighing 245. Takahashi just around 200.
Big right palm strike from Bisac. Takahashi, nice big looping left hook palm strike, and more palm strikes from Bisac. Takahashi able to block a good amount of them, but still some of that's getting through, and that's going to take its toll.
Scott Bisac showing he is not intimidated, delivering blows to Takahashi, and now backing him into a corner. Takahashi just getting hit by knees and slaps, but Takahashi returns the favor. A left-right palm strike combination takes Bisac down. Bisac looked in control, but Josh...
What a turnaround. Takahashi is explosive. He can come out and can't make the count as Bisac. What a return on Takahashi's part. He opened up and he scores heavy and puts him down.
122, correct that, 226 in the first round, and it looks like Scott Bisac dominated probably about 2 minutes out of the 226 of the match, but those last 26 seconds or so, as we see here on the replay, ferocious right palm strikes. Bisac goes down and never gets back up, Josh.
Left, right, and Bisac is down and out for the count. And I think Bisac was really caught unawares. I'm sure he'd been hit a few times by Takahashi, but he had so much momentum in this fight. He was controlling and landing at will, and all of a sudden, just bam, out of nowhere, it just caught him right flush, and that was the end of that.
And Scott Bisac has to be a little disappointed, Josh. He dominated 80, maybe even 90% of this fight, but just that one little slip, Takahashi, all it took was a left-right palm strike to knock Bisac out.
True, and I'm very familiar with Takahashi's ability to hurt somebody, and the fact that my nose curves a little bit to one side is handiwork of Mr. Takahashi, friend of mine, but if he's...
Even after the nose.
Even after the nose, and I actually about broke his arm in return, but...
So it all evens out.
It all evens out, but he's a hellacious puncher, and he's got a lot of velocity on those things.
All right, and after the break, we're going to watch someone else that is a great puncher. Minoru Suzuki is in action. Stay tuned. Welcome back to Pancrase, Legends of Mixed Martial Arts. We're about to see Minoru Suzuki take on Todd Medina. Now, Josh, Todd Medina only has 3 career fights. I think he might be a little in over his head against Suzuki.
Yeah, his last fight against Fuke ended up in him getting caught in an armbar, but he did seem to fare pretty well against Fuke for most of the fight. But Suzuki is in a different class, all his own, and is one of the top fighters within Pancrase. While Medina has a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu background and cage fighting experience, Suzuki is one of the premier catch wrestlers in the world and was one of Carl Gotch's favorite students. And I imagine that the sort of dynamic game he's going to have to deal with from someone like Minoru Suzuki is something he's unaccustomed to, and I don't think he's going to fare too well.
All right, so can Todd Medina hang in the ring with Minoru Suzuki? Well, let's find out.
Todd Medina versus Minoru Suzuki.
Minoru Suzuki comes into this fight with a very impressive record, 15-6. His last loss to Boss Rutan, nothing to be ashamed about.
King of Pancrase match at that, so at one time Suzuki was carrying the title, and to get a world championship you got to be a serious contender, a serious fighter.
So how in the world does Todd Medina prepare for a fighter like Suzuki?
What I think he needs to do is not think of so much at trying to match certain things that Suzuki does, but Todd is a bigger fighter, and he should really try to put the fight within his strengths and maybe slow this match down and get a good control point position-wise, and then work from there, either to wear his opponent out, eventually working for the submission, or maybe just to keep him tight and then maybe wait for Suzuki to make the mistake. As Suzuki landed a middle kick and is landing several knees, Medina forcing the clinch and rushing him into the ropes to look for a takedown, I believe.
And Medina thus far unsuccessful in his attempt to take Suzuki down to the mat. It looks like Suzuki is also trying for the takedown, and what a surprise! Suzuki gets the takedown. He has the side control.
Counter to a headlock attempt on Medina by Suzuki, ends up by using the underhook to put Medina on his back. Now Suzuki controlling. Medina still holding on to Suzuki's head there, and I think Medina is looking for his opportunity to either reclaim his guard or maybe reverse the situation. It looks like he's actually trying to get back to his feet. Suzuki's spinning arm lock attempt.
And I think he's almost got the armbar, Josh.
Medina rolling,
very close,
looking to escape the arm lock and cannot get out. Suzuki locking down the wrist, keeping the elbow in place, and Medina's going nowhere.
今の僕の気持ちをストレートに試合で表すなら、秒殺かなと思ったんですけど、僕の前に高橋がすごくいい秒殺をやってたんで、小手、ワンツーで久々に見る高橋のなんかこう落ち着いたところですかね。落ち着いて高橋が試合やってたんで、それでバーンと決まって、打撃じゃねえな、速い関節技で取りたかったですね。で僕にしかできないような同じ逆十字固めとか足取るにしても首取るにしても僕にしかできないような入り方とかで。
Todd Medina going down to the armbar technique, and maybe from watching tape of Medina previously against Fuke was helpful for Suzuki.
And Medina, this was his fourth career fight, has a long way to go, and Suzuki just showed him how long a road that will be.
And take it from here that while this is earlier in Todd Medina's career, Todd Medina went on to fight in many other organizations and has found quite a bit of success in gathering titles as well. So Todd Medina, no slouch.
All right, in our next fight, we're going to watch Yusuke Fuke versus Jason DeLucia. How do you see this matchup playing out, Josh?
Fuke, DeLucia. I think DeLucia, being the taller fighter, and Fuke, it's going to be a quick match in terms of the speed at which it's going to be played at, but I think that DeLucia is going to be he's going to have the advantage of having a really good game off of his back with his previous jiu-jitsu experience. Fuke is going to have to really watch out for things like the triangle choke and the armbar off the back, and we'll see how he's going to take advantage of what strengths he might be bringing to the ring against DeLucia, who I would think on paper kind of has the advantage in all areas.
All right, Josh Barnett says DeLucia has the advantage. Is Josh Barnett a soothsayer? Let's find out.
Jason DeLucia versus Yusuke Fuke.
As we saw with his last performance, DeLucia looked very sharp.
And Yusuke Fuke is 10-9. His last win against Todd Medina, who we just saw in action.
Fuke initiates the clinch after eating a few kicks from DeLucia. DeLucia still more kicks, more strikes, and a single leg attempt by Fuke, blocked by DeLucia, and crossface ends him up into the rear control position.
And DeLucia looks like he might be going for the arm of Fuke right here.
Well, that one-on-one wrist right there is to actually keep Fuke in position and to also keep him from getting his hand up to block the choke attempt. Nice double wrist lock entry by DeLucia later on in the match here. Very dangerous position for Fuke.
And so far, DeLucia getting the best of Fuke, dominating the fight thus far. What does Fuke have to do right there? It looks like his arms aren't in good shape.
Well, he's got his hands locked to try and strengthen that arm that's being attacked, but he's in not a good leverage position to stop DeLucia from cranking it behind his back, as you see, and has to take the rope escape.
Both fighters back on their feet.
Look for DeLucia to open up with some inside low kicks, I think, from his southpaw stance.
Playfully slapping Fuke's hand for a second was DeLucia.
Looking for a reaction to DeLucia, and there's that inside low kick. Fuke wisely saw it coming, scoops it up for the single leg, and on the mat is DeLucia with Fuke on top.
And Fuke looks to have finally have something going here against DeLucia. He's usually used to the bottom so far we've seen in the fight. And a nice little reverse by DeLucia. What did we just see, Josh?
Nice bridge attempt by DeLucia. Fuke tried to ride it out and continue to keep a back control position, but DeLucia, squirming and turning within, managed to reverse and get on top. Fuke here looks like he's going for a knee bar. With the way the match has been going on so far, DeLucia's got to be feeling strong, and he's got to be feeling confident about getting that submission eventually on Fuke, or maybe even just getting him to get enough lost points that he gets the TKO.
Now, if you're Fuke, now's the time to take some risks. You're losing in points, and if you leave it up to the judges, you're going to lose.
Right, and as we saw with against Medina, he wasn't necessarily losing on points, but he was being controlled for a majority of the match, and it wasn't until he took the risk and went for that rolling, jumping armbar attack, he was able to finally get the armbar that did finish the match for him.
But Jason DeLucia holding his own, not allowing Fuke to take him down thus far.
Engaging in a bit of a striking battle right now. DeLucia keeping his distance as he is the fighter with the reach. High kick attempt by DeLucia, blocked.
And Fuke, I'm not sure how much time. And Fuke goes down for a second. I'm not sure how much time he thinks is left, but he can't stand around waiting for DeLucia to make the first move.
No, he's got to be active. He's behind. He's had two lost points, 2 rope escapes versus none, as far as I can tell, with DeLucia. And down 3-0. He's going to have to pull out a miracle to win this fight.
Fuke is going to have to let loose if he wants any chance of winning, but DeLucia, not being cautious, goes in for the takedown, and now he has the rear mount.
Landing the high kick on the feet. Shutting down Fuke at all levels. Another high kick by DeLucia.
Well, DeLucia might be winning the fight, but he just keeps coming and coming, but it looks like Fuke might have the leg, but not enough time to do anything as the fight comes to an end. Both fighters very exhausted, Josh. I'm not sure if Fuke had any gas left to do anything in the final 30 seconds of this fight.
Very worn out, very tired, and just getting worked over this match by DeLucia. Every offense, every defensive position always ending up in an advantage to DeLucia. So just a really hard fight for Fuke, and just not his night.
All right, and he has beaten DeLucia before, so he can't do it. So perhaps today, the best fighter won today, but the next fight, it's a toss-up.
I agree, exactly. And maybe next time when they're able to get into the ring, we'll see a different fight between Fuke and DeLucia.
Our next fight will be a King of Pancrase ranking match. Masakatsu Funaki, ranked number 2, will face Frank Shamrock, who is ranked number 4. A huge match, Josh, because the winner gets a title shot.
Masakatsu Funaki versus Frank Shamrock. As
we see Masakatsu Funaki backstage. Now, Josh, what is a fighter telling himself at this point when he's getting ready to fight?
I can't speak for Funaki, but I know for me, it's all about focusing on what I need to do to win. And I also happen to think about all the good things that can happen in the fight that allow me to win the fight. I also think about all the things that my opponent can do and be successful at, and how, regardless of anything that may happen to me, being knocked down, being caught in a submission, being in a tight spot, how even under those circumstances, I still find a way out of that and I'm able to win the match. And truly, I believe a fighter should focus completely on what he's got to do to win.
Funaki with an 18-4 record coming into this fight. Just beat Guy Mesger, and he has won 7 of his last 8 fights, so he's got to be feeling pretty good about himself.
I would think so, but he's got to know that Frank Shamrock's an incredibly dangerous fighter, regardless of the difference in experience. And he's got, with someone like Ken in his corner, I'm sure Frank is well prepared specifically to fight Funaki.
Now, they fought once before, Funaki coming out on top. Is there any way Funaki is a little too overconfident because he's beaten Shamrock before?
I would think a fighter like Funaki, as smart as he is and experienced as he is, would understand that from that point on to here, Frank is going to be a different fighter than what they met early on.
And Funaki so far not shy about throwing the strikes. And Shamrock, nice leg kicks. Both fighters trying to maybe knock each other out, trying to end this quick.
Funaki throwing some big shotes and dropping to the mat and just taking the fight down to the ground.
Shamrock on top, Funaki on the bottom position. As we see Shamrock tugging on Funaki's arms. Why is he doing that, Josh?
Not exactly sure. Looked more like a hand control thing. And you could hear Ken in Frank's corner telling him to be patient, be patient.
Both fighters back on their feet.
Funaki dropping his hands, sort of daring Frank to come in on him.
Crowd like that, Shamrock knocking Funaki's hand away. And it does look like Frank Shamrock is being patient, and a nice spinning leg kick by Funaki didn't connect though.
Yeah, the kneel kick, just no setup and with too much distance to really score, but might have got Frank's attention that something that wild could come. Dropped in for a triangle choke or armbar attempt was Funaki. Now back on the mat with Frank on top.
Now, Frank's corner is telling him to be patient. Why is it so important for Frank to be patient in this fight?
I think Frank maybe at this point in his career was a little, I would almost say reckless at going into the different submissions and attacking sometimes. But Funaki's not the kind of person that you can afford to make mistakes against. So Ken is giving the advice that he knows that Frank's got the tools to win this match as long as he plays smart.
As we move ahead in the fight, Frank Shamrock still on top. Funaki having his neck in a hold.
Yeah, I've heard this called a baseball choke. It's a neck lock of sorts. And managing to get the rope escape against Funaki, no easy feat indeed.
Frank Shamrock should be very encouraged by that. Funaki deducted a point. Funaki and Metzger circling around each other. And if this fight does stay, if both fighters do stay on their feet, is there one favor you like over the other?
Well, Frank has certainly got a lot of explosiveness, but I think when it comes down to timing and technique, at this point, Funaki would probably be the better striker. But Funaki seems in this match that he's really more willing and wanting to go to the ground and engage in a ground war as he sets up a triangle choke here.
Trying to use the legs to choke Shamrock, but unsuccessful thus far. Now possibly reaching out for the legs of Shamrock.
Well, if he can pull down that leg, and Shamrock turning, trying to escape that choke, if he can pull that leg in, there's the arm, and
they get to the rope. Is he going to get a break for that?
That's a rope escape. He was diving in on there. He transitioned from the triangle choke with the legs to the arm lock, as his arm was right in between Funaki's legs and able to lock out in a similar fashion to a cross arm scissor. But Funaki kind of known for using the triangle choke, and if Frank isn't careful, Funaki might be able to pull his leg in and lock it down next time, cutting off the circulation.
And Funaki getting back into this match. He's lost a point, and Shamrock has also lost a point. And Shamrock going possibly for another takedown. And he does get it, but it looks like Funaki might be on top.
Yeah, it looked like a sort of a botched throw on Shamrock's part, with Funaki seeing it, blocking the technique, now ending up inside Shamrock's guard. Shamrock controlling the wrist, looking for the arm lock, and working diligently with Funaki in his guard. Funaki really seems to be being patient, taking his time. I think he's going to look to get through his legs, or maybe just wait for Shamrock to initiate and then counter with whatever Frank feeds him. Nice reverse over by Frank Shamrock, getting on top of Funaki again. Funaki really doesn't seem to be taking advantage of some of the opportunities I think that are presenting to him.
And both fighters with very quick reactions. It seems like it's really hard for either of them to catch each other in a submission move.
I would say so too, but really I think we've seen a lot more offense and better setup moves from Frank at this point. But hey, the match doesn't go on forever. Funaki, if he's got an idea, he needs to institute a plan sometime soon.
Both fighters back on their feet after the restart. Nice right pumps, right, and a right leg kick, and Funaki being pushed towards the ropes, and a nice right leg kick by Shamrock, but Shamrock goes down and Funaki charges at him.
Yeah, losing his balance on trying to throw that high kick in the corner. Funaki now initiating the clinch against Shamrock. Shamrock getting securing the head, looking for a front choke. Funaki keeping him in the corner, looking for the clinch. Another head kick attempt by Shamrock, misses.
Funaki doing a good job keeping his hands up, preventing any punches or strikes to hit from his face.
Whizzer, roll through into the legs is Funaki, looking for the knee bar.
He might be close to getting that knee bar on Frank.
Toe hold on Frank.
It looks like Frank has to grab the rope for another escape. That's his second one. And Funaki is right now, he's leading in the fight as we take a break from the fight. Josh, so far a very competitive matchup, very even. We just saw Funaki take the lead.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it looks like Funaki's starting to pick it up a little bit and maybe start to read from his opponent and see some of the mistakes and openings that are being left behind by Frank. And after that toe hold, Frank certainly, by the expression on his face, is in pain. He's in a lot of pain, and who knows how much damage has been done to his knee and his ankle by that toe hold instituted by Funaki.
All right, we're going to take a quick break, but when we come back, can Masakatsu Funaki hold on to his lead? And we're back. We're in the middle of watching the Masakatsu Funaki Frank Shamrock match, and if you missed any of it, Funaki just took the lead, and Frank Shamrock has to be a little discouraged. He made Funaki escape first, and then Funaki came back, responded, made Shamrock escape twice.
Yeah, Funaki is really, it seems as though he's reading his opponent a lot better at this point, and Frank not quite setting up the strikes and the takedowns as much as you'd like. I think he's starting to become reactive instead of still really thinking about what he needs to accomplish right now. But against a guy like Funaki, he's very dangerous and can always get into a submission at any moment.
And Funaki, as we said before, leading in the fight. Let's see if he can hold on to that lead as he throws a left kick, but misses. And you see Frank's corner tell him to be aggressive now, perhaps telling him that because he's losing in the fight.
Got to pick it up, got to pick it up. Nice double leg tackle by Shamrock, ending up inside the guard of Funaki, a common place. Looking to attack the leg, maybe going after a toe hold of his own against Funaki, but very dangerous business indeed, as Funaki is a master of leg submissions.
And Frank Shamrock now on the bottom, mounted by Funaki. Funaki has to have the advantage right here.
Right, looking to perhaps stuff that arm and encircle one of those legs around Shamrock's arm and neck and go for that triangle from the top position is Funaki, just like right there. Looking for the triangle is Funaki. Frank defending.
And Funaki got off of him for a second, but jumped right back in.
A little spin move on Funaki's part, trying to look for some sort of opening or maybe change the direction of the match. In half guard is Funaki. Back to mount, and again looking for that triangle from on top from mount.
And Frank looks like he has a leg of Funaki. Might be going for some sort of leg hold.
Going for the toe hold is Frank now, in a battle of toe holds, Frank versus Funaki. In the middle of the ring.
It doesn't look like anyone's going to grab the rope from that position.
Frank in a very good spot.
And Frank Shamrock wins the fight with the ankle hold. Masakatsu Funaki taps out. And as you can see, Frank Shamrock exhausted. Both fighters just staying on the ground. Not a lot of energy left. And if you're Masakatsu Funaki, has to be a very disappointing loss. He just lost a shot at the title, a fight in which he was actually ahead before he got submitted.
Yeah, that is the case right now. Funaki would go on to have many other chances at winning the belt, but it certainly speaks a lot for the advancement of Shamrock in the Pancrase leagues. And the guy has only been there for a short time, but yet he's growing in leaps and bounds and poised to capture the title.
And a very clutch performance, too, by Frank Shamrock. He was losing in the bout. He knew he had to do something, and he did it against arguably the best fighter in Pancrase at the time.
With his own move.
All right, and coming up next, actually we're going to see this right now. It's Bas Rutten versus Maurice Smith. Maurice Smith, a kickboxer. We saw him dismantle Manabu Yamada earlier, Josh, but this fight, not a kickboxing match, a regular Pancrase match. So Maurice Smith, not a threat, not as much of a threat as he was in the Yamada match.
Well, both are renowned for their striking, and Maurice Smith being a world champion level kickboxer right now, but the difference being that Bas has spent a lot of time within the Pancrase system adding submissions and takedowns to his arsenal. I think in this case, it's not so much striker versus striker, but more like mixed martial artist versus striker.
And it's Bas Rutten versus Maurice Smith. Let's go ringside.
Bas Rutten versus Maurice Smith.
And these fighters, they do have some familiarity with each other, Josh. They fought once before. Bas Rutten coming out on top. But as we saw previously, just because you defeat a fighter once, it doesn't mean the second time will be any easier.
Right, and I'm sure both of these fighters have made improvements in their games, but Bas Rutten is going to be tough to defeat at this point in his career.
And as we saw in the last match, Maurice Smith in kickboxing, very skilled, but what kind of transitions and changes in style does he have to make in a Pancrase match?
He's going to have to watch for the takedowns and the submission attempts from Bas. And Bas has been training diligently at the Pancrase dojo throughout the years here and has really acquired quite the submission game of his own, as evidenced against fighters like Minoru Suzuki, a submission master himself.
Now, when Bas Rutten first started in Pancrase, he didn't really have a ground game. He said all he knew was the guillotine, and he definitely has boned up on his homework, and he's ready. His ground game is much improved from the very beginning.
I agree. And one thing that always goes for Bas's favor is that even if he doesn't know what he's got, he's so incredibly strong. If he puts all his strength into it, it might just become a submission based on the fact he's about to tear one of your arms off.
Both fighters exchanging kicks, and if you had to give the kick advantage, who has the better kick?
I would say that Bas, nice front kick into a showcase.
A vicious takedown by Maurice Smith, Josh.
Big slam. Not really what you would expect from someone like Maurice Smith, but he is a big, strong individual, and I think when it comes to velocity, the advantage would go to Bas, but when it comes to just overall power in the low kicks, I think Maurice would win in that territory.
And Maurice Smith, even though this is not a kickboxing match, holding his own so far. A double leg takedown he got on Bas before. I don't know if I've ever seen Bas Rutten involved on a double leg takedown.
It's surprising that Maurice would end up on top and working the submission game against Rutten. I would almost think that if he did get the takedown, Maurice would simply just disengage and bring it back to the feet.
And if this fight were to go to the judges, perhaps Maurice Smith might have a chance, but Bas Rutten, very good all-around fighter nowadays with the strikes and the submissions. I'm not really sure Maurice Smith can take this fight to the distance.
Well, between the both of them being explosive individuals and strikers the way they are, I just don't see this as the kind of fight that's going to last. Someone's going to make a mistake and either get knocked out or submitted. as Boss going for the leg lock, but Maurice showing good composure, sees the hold coming and reverses and gets on top to the half guard position. Boss with an underhook and a body lock, reverses with the bridge.
A very nice reverse. Bas Rutten showing a lot of fundamentals, and he's going for the rear naked choke, and he got it. Bas Rutten wins via the rear naked choke against Maurice Smith. And as we take a look at that Rutten jump, Josh, was there any point in your life you could do something like that?
No. I'm afraid Boss is just going to have all the fun in terms of jumping and doing the splits. But it was a nice transition by Boss off of that series of escapes initiated by Boss, using that bridge with the waist lock, Maurice countering, trying to roll Boss through, and Boss going right, seeing the neck being open and going right to the sleeper hold. Great technique by Boss, and shows why he would become champion and go on for, I believe, 2 years without a single defeat.
And Maurice Smith, this is the fight after he defeated Yamada. This time, he picked on someone his own size and found life to be a lot tougher.
Now I'm a free fighter. I'm a good wrestler now also. I'm every time better. Next year, nobody can defeat me anymore.
All right, and those are all the fights we have for today. But before we go, let's check out this week's event highlight. And that highlight comes from the Yoshiki Takahashi Scott Bisac match, which we thought Bisac was dominating until right now. Takahashi returns the favor. A left-right palm strike combination takes Bisac down. Bisac looked in control, but
what a turnaround. Takahashi is explosive.
All right, and that does it for this edition of Pancrase, Legends of Mixed Martial Arts. I'm Rob Wu.
Josh Barnett.
See you next week.